So, 10 years ago, I made a jump. I moved from a co-star to a recurring guest star on the show Man in the High Castle. And up until that point, I had thought about acting as like a progression. So when co-star, 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 guest star, guest star, guest star, recurring guest, series regular. And booking this recurring guest meant I jumped the line. And it's something that I've been reflecting on in the last 10 years. How did I get from the point that I was a co-star straight to recurring guest at the age of 28? So let's set the stage. At the point that I booked Man in the High Castle, I was 28 years old. I've been through a handful of reps. I had a manager at one point who I dropped. I had a few agents. I had a really great agent up in Portland who booked me a co-star on The Librarians. And then I moved back to LA and I struggled to find rep for a little while until about a year in, I landed with a small boutique agency that you probably have never heard of. And I really loved it. I followed my gut and I felt like this was the right agency for me. But about a year went by and I was starting to get really concerned that she was going to drop me because I hadn't booked anything. I don't have any entertainment industry people in my family. I had no connections to pull on. And at the point that I had booked Man in the High Castle, I had been studying for 11 years, if you don't count high school. I do think, though, there were some factors that helped me book the job. So I want to go through those. One of the factors, don't hate me, I was married. I had gotten married about a year and a half, 2 years before booking High Castle. And the reason that I mention that is being married really grounded me. It meant that I stopped trying to impress everybody in the room because I had already impressed a person who was going to spend the rest of his life with me. So I had a settled quality within my body. And I think that you can get that without being married. Just stop trying to impress everybody in the room. It's exhausting, and truly, the people who go around trying to impress everybody can be kind of tiring to be around sometimes. Another thing that happened is when I got the script, I loved it. I read it and I thought, oh, I'm so glad that someone is talking about this. I've thought about these things for so long. And so when I worked on it, I worked on the thoughts, I worked on the content, and not necessarily the emotion. I had emotions about it when I was working on it. But by and large, what occurred to me when I got this script was, ooh, I have something to say about that. And entering into a relationship with a text and into an audition with a perspective and a feeling that you have something of yourself that you want to share through the text, I think is a really important factor. And then lastly, and I don't think that this can be overstated, I thought I could get it. Prior to going into the audition, I looked up the casting director and I had seen an interview where she said she liked to cast unknowns. And so I went into that room thinking that it was a very distinct possibility I could book it. And something about the marriage of my perspective on the script and the possibility that I could book this role really helped me out. And I remember leaving that audition space, not caring whether or not I had slayed or not slayed, but just thinking, I love this character, I've loved spending time with her, and I really hope I get to spend more time. Later, when I was working on the show, someone involved said that one of the reasons that I got cast was because I transported them to the room. And I think that part of that is because of how I approached the work and how I saw the possibilities. Okay, but one more thing for real. The other true fact is, I got lucky. I think there's a reason that so many actors have a sort of mystical universe type of perspective when it comes to this industry, because it really does feel like you can't miss something that's meant for you. And this, in many ways, felt like it was meant for me. And so, long and short of it is, I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. And I booked it. So what are some good takeaways here? Because getting lucky isn't really a takeaway when it comes to career building. I think the number one thing is obviously study. If it's something that you want to do and love to do, then much like a relationship where you want to know everything about a person, why wouldn't you want to know more about the art form that you say you love? Listen to interviews, find out how people work, but also grain of salt. Because people who talk about their process are talking about something as personal as a fingerprint. And so they're not really able to tell you how to do it. They are giving you potential tools, but those tools aren't going to work the same for you as they do for the people who are talking about them. And also, historically, we're terrible at describing our own processes. The other takeaway, and I say this to a lot of actors, is to get these bigger swings, you do kind of need representation. But bigger isn't always better. I booked Man in the High Castle with a pretty small boutique agency. The other thing I will say is you're going to take a lot of shots in this industry. Hone your audition process. I tend to keep my auditions pretty short. I do a lot of prep, but when I'm filming, I try and limit myself in takes, partially to mirror what happens on set. You don't get to do a bunch of takes to warm up. So I want to make sure that when I hit the audition room, I'm simulating an on-set experience. It's helped me a ton because it makes me show up ready to go. And then the only other thing I will say is it's not a straight line or a progression. After High Castle, I struggled to book another gig, and the next one that I did was a co-star. So it's not like it opened every single door for me and made everything copacetic and easy. I think it made some things easier. I think having a recurring guest star on my resume made me look more serious, but it didn't guarantee me anything. Luck, good fortune, universe, whatever you want to call it, is a big part of this. But believing in possibilities, I think, is a lot of why we keep going. There are so many other stories I can share about my time in this industry, and that will be probably for another video. So if you've enjoyed this story time, please like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon.